and still pretending they are perfectly fine. They are not fine. They miss you far more than they want you to know. And what makes this reading so powerful is that the silence is not empty at all. The silence is crowded. Crowded with unsent words, replayed memories, half-written messages, and that ache a person carries when pride keeps stopping the mouth from saying what the heart has already admitted 100 times. The first card rising here is the Page of Swords. This is watchful energy, curious energy. This person is thinking about communication constantly. They may check and indirectly hover around your energy, watch for signs, wonder what you are doing, wonder who you are with, wonder if you still feel anything. I do not get emotional detachment here. I get someone who is mentally orbiting you while trying to look unaffected. And that is the first hook of the reading. They are not silent because they do not care. They are silent because they care so much that the wrong move feels terrifying. Right beside that, I'm seeing the Four of Pentacles, and that says everything, because this is someone gripping their feelings tightly, holding back, holding in, holding on. They do not want to reveal how much they miss you because they are afraid of what that vulnerability would expose. Afraid you might see how deep it really goes. Afraid you might realize that your absence has had far more power over them than they ever intended. So what I'm getting is not lack of desire to speak. It is emotional containment. A person trying to manage the intensity by pressing it down while the pressure just keeps building underneath. I keep hearing something clearly. If I say something, they'll know. Because the real fear here is not communication by itself. The real fear is exposure. Exposure of the longing. Exposure of the attachment. Exposure of the fact that they have not moved on nearly as well as they hoped they would. The energy around you feels like the High Priestess, and I love that because it tells me your intuition probably already senses this. You may not have the exact message in front of you, but Spirit is saying your deeper knowing has been picking up on the emotional current. This person's silence has not been empty to your spirit. On some level, you have felt the tug, the held back words, the emotional stare from a distance, that strange feeling that someone is saying a lot without saying anything at all. Then I'm seeing the Six of Cups. This is where the tenderness comes in because yes, they miss you deeply, sweetly, emotionally. This is somebody replaying moments, tones of voice, expressions, little details, and emotional atmospheres. I feel like they go back to memories when they are alone. They revisit things that mattered. They miss the feeling of you, not just your face, not just your attention, the feeling. That is why communication feels dangerous to them. One message could open the floodgates. Another message keeps rising here. They do not trust themselves to keep it casual. Wow, that lands because I feel this person may know that if they start talking to you, the mask slips, the composure cracks. The truth begins showing through. They are worried they will reveal more than intended. That one little hey becomes a whole confession. That one check-in becomes a whole emotional unraveling. The next card I'm seeing is the Moon, and that is such a powerful confirmation that so much is hidden. Hidden longing, hidden softness, hidden ache. This person may seem hard to read from the outside, but inwardly they are swimming in emotion they do not fully know how to handle. They may even confuse themselves sometimes. One moment they want to reach out immediately. The next moment pride, fear, uncertainty, or overthinking kicks in and shuts it all down again. And then the Knight of Cups appears, which tells me that beneath all the hesitation, the desire to communicate is real, romantic, and heartfelt. They do want to close the emotional distance. They do want to let tenderness move. But the heart and the ego are fighting each other here. The heart wants you. The ego wants protection. The heart wants expression. The ego wants control. That is the tension making the silence feel so loud. The message in this opening wave is this: they want to communicate. Yes. But what truly stops them is the fear that the moment they do, you will hear how much they miss you in every word, every pause, every little crack in their voice. And once that truth comes out, they cannot take it back. The heart will be visible then, completely visible. And that is exactly what they are both craving and trying to avoid. Now, what rises next feels like the draft of a message opened at midnight, typed slowly, erased completely, and then started again from the first word. That is exactly how this energy feels. This person does want to communicate. very much, but they are fighting the evidence of their own heart. Because the second they reach for you, the second they hear your name, picture your face, or imagine you replying, all the missing comes rushing up in a way that becomes hard to hide. The first card I'm seeing here is the Eight of Wands, and wow, this tells me the urge to reach out comes in waves, strong waves, sudden waves. They may have moments where the desire to send something feels almost impossible to resist. A quick message, a simple question, a little opening. I feel this person gets bursts of courage followed by just as much hesitation. So if you have ever wondered whether they almost contacted you and then stopped themselves, Spirit is saying yes, more than once. And right beside that, I'm seeing the Nine of Swords. This is not peace. This is not indifference. This is mental spiraling, late night thoughts, rehearsed conversations, imagined outcomes. Worry about how you would respond. Worry that you would hear too much in too few words. I keep hearing something very clearly. If I talk to them, I'll give myself away. That line says everything. Because what they are afraid of is not only rejection, it is transparency. It is the possibility that one small message reveals the deeper truth that they have been missing you in ways that have affected their sleep, their focus, their mood, and even their sense of emotional control. The energy around you here feels like the star, and I love that because it tells me you are still the place in their heart that feels hopeful, soft, healing. The person they want to reach toward when life feels emotionally dry, and that is part of why the silence hurts them too. They are not only missing your presence, they are missing the emotional atmosphere of you, your energy, your warmth. The sense of relief they associate with your existence, then I'm seeing the Two of Swords. And yes, this says they are deeply split. One side wants to speak. One side wants to stay guarded. One side says, just say something. The other says, no, stay composed, stay unreadable, stay in control. So there is real internal tension here. And I think what makes it worse is that neither side is weak. They genuinely want contact, and they genuinely fear what contact will expose. Another message keeps coming through very strongly. They miss you more than they can admit to themselves. That feels important. Because sometimes even they try to shrink the truth, they try to call it curiosity, they try to call it timing. They try to call it unfinished thoughts, but Spirit is saying this is bigger than that. It is longing, emotional longing, missing someone's voice, energy, presence, reaction, softness, and the particular feeling of connection that existed between you. The next card I'm seeing is the Hermit in reverse. And wow, that says the silence is becoming harder for them to maintain. Their isolation is not helping anymore. The private processing is not solving it anymore. There is a kind of emotional pressure building here that wants release through communication. Even if they stay quiet for a little longer, I do not feel this quietness is comfortable. It feels strained, like a person trying to contain water with their bare hands. And then the Queen of Cups appears, which tells me the missing is deeply emotional, sweet, vulnerable, human. This person may think of you in a very tender way when no one else is around. Their heart softens when they think of you. And that softness is exactly what they do not want you to hear too clearly if they reach out. Because once tenderness is heard, the truth is difficult to hide. So the deeper message in this wave is this: they want to communicate. But the reason they keep hesitating is because they know the message will carry more than words. It will carry ache, attachment, softness, need. You would feel how much they miss you even if they tried to sound casual. And that is what makes the silence both safer and more painful for them at the same time. And Spirit keeps whispering one last thing here. This person is not fighting the urge to text. They are fighting the emotional flood that would come behind the text the second the door opened even a little. And if the silence feels heavy to you sometimes, that is because it is heavy on their side too. They are carrying unsaid words like stones in their chest, trying to look normal while the heart keeps leaning towards you anyway. They are not empty, they are restrained. And restraint is not the same thing as release, not even close at all. Still, I feel the message already exists in spirit, waiting for the moment fear gets quieter than missing for you. That is what this feels like. This person is not only missing you, they are rehearsing communication with you over and over. In their head, in their chest, in those quiet moments when no one is watching and the truth gets loud. I feel like whole conversations are happening inside them before a single word ever reaches you. They imagine what they would say. They imagine what you would say back. They imagine whether your tone would be soft, distant, surprised, warm, and those imagined responses affect them more than they want to admit. The first card I'm seeing here is the Page of Cups. And wow, this tells me their desire to communicate is very tender, very vulnerable. This is not just somebody wanting information or access. This is somebody wanting emotional contact. A sign, a softness, a little opening that lets them know the heart bridge between you is not completely gone. They may want to keep it simple on the surface, but the heart beneath it is anything but simple. And right beside that, I'm seeing the Five of Cups. So yes, there is regret here. Real regret, the kind that lives in the throat, the kind that makes a person wish they had said something sooner, done something sooner, protected the connection sooner. I keep hearing something very clearly. They are scared the silence already said too much. That line lands deeply because I feel part of their fear is that too much time has passed. Too much space has grown, and now if they reach out, the very act of reaching out will reveal how little peace they found without you. It will reveal that the missing never really settled down. That the distance did not do what they hoped it would do. The energy around you here feels like temperance. And I love that because it tells me your energy still feels balancing, calming, and deeply healing to them. This person may associate you with relief, with emotional ease, with a kind of softness they have not found elsewhere. And that makes the urge to communicate even stronger because when someone becomes your inner place of calm, silence starts to feel like exile. Then I'm seeing the Seven of Pentacles. And that tells me they have been waiting, watching, and thinking for a long time. This is not a sudden impulse that appeared yesterday. This has been growing, ripening, becoming heavier with time. And I feel like part of them keeps hoping the right moment will show up. But the truth is, what they are really waiting for is the moment when their fear stops feeling stronger than their longing. Another message keeps coming through very strongly. They want to test the waters, but their heart wants to dive in. That is exactly the tension because the mind says, send something small, keep it light, protect yourself. But the heart says, I miss them. I want to hear them. I want closeness. I want truth. And those two impulses do not blend easily. The next card I'm seeing is the Moon in reverse. And wow, this says the hidden feelings are becoming harder to contain. The emotional fog is lifting. The excuses are thinning out. This person is starting to see that what they feel is not just passing loneliness or random nostalgia, it is attachment missing emotional pull. So the silence is becoming more uncomfortable now because the real reason behind it is no longer hidden from them. And then the Six of Wands appears, which tells me pride still matters here, very much. They may want to appear composed, unaffected, self-contained. They do not want to look like they are unraveling because they miss you. They do not want to look like they lost control of the connection in their own heart. So even if they do reach out, I feel the first attempt may still carry a little armor, a little polish, a little I'm fine tone, even if they are not fine at all underneath it. So the deeper message in this part is this: they want to communicate so badly because the missing has become part of their daily emotional landscape. But they are still wrestling with pride, regret, and the fear that even one small message will expose how much of their heart is still turned toward you. They are not quiet because they have nothing to say. They are quiet because they have too much to say, and too much feeling attached to every word. And Spirit keeps whispering one last thing here. This person is not wondering whether they should text. They are wondering whether they can survive what they will feel the moment you text back. Because if you answer softly, the wall cracks. If you answer warmly, the truth spills. And if you answer like home, they may not be able to pretend anymore that they only kind of miss you. They miss you in full, and the heart knows it. Now, it feels like the moment a song gets stuck in someone's chest. Not because they forgot the words, but because every lyric suddenly means you. That is what this next wave feels like. This person is carrying communication like a heartbeat. They keep trying to quiet with logic, routine, distraction, pride, and none of it is working the way they hoped. The missing keeps slipping through. It shows up in random hours and ordinary moments in the spaces where your name is not being spoken out loud, but is somehow still everywhere inside them. The first card I'm seeing here is the Eight of Cups in reverse. And wow, this tells me they have not emotionally left. They may have taken physical space. They may have tried to redirect themselves. They may have acted as though distance was the solution, but deep down, no. Their heart keeps turning back. Their thoughts keep turning back. Their softer self keeps turning back. And that is why communication feels so loaded. Reaching out would not just be starting a conversation, it would be admitting that their heart never truly walked away. And right beside that, I'm seeing the Knight of Swords. So yes, the urge to communicate can hit them suddenly, sharply, almost like a rush. 1 second they are fine. The next second they want to say everything, ask everything, break the silence all at once. But then the fear comes in just as fast. I keep hearing something very clearly. If I start talking, I won't know how to stop. That line feels important. Because I do not think this person trusts themselves to stay casual with you anymore. I really do not. I feel that the feelings have grown too large, too layered, too emotional. So what stops them is not a lack of words. It is the fear that the first word unlocks 10 others, and those words expose exactly how deeply they have been affected by your absence. The energy around you here feels like the Queen of Wands, and I love that because it tells me your energy is still very alive in them. Magnetic, vivid, felt. You are not some distant memory that faded into gray. Number your presence still has color in their inner world. They can still feel your spark, your warmth, your pull. That is part of why the missing feels so active. You are not emotionally gone to them. You still feel present, and that makes silence harder to maintain. Then I'm seeing the Four of Swords in reverse. And wow, this says their inner peace is being disturbed by all the unsaid things, restlessness, emotional stirring, the inability to fully settle. They may look calm outwardly, but inwardly there is movement. So much movement. I feel like there are nights when this person lies there replaying what they could say, how they could say it. Whether a small message would be enough, whether it would only make things worse, whether hearing from you would heal them or undo them. Another message keeps coming through very strongly. They are trying not to make their loneliness obvious. That lands because I feel part of their image of themselves depends on looking composed, independent, unaffected. But the truth is they are feeling the space where you used to be, or the space where your energy used to reach them more directly. And that emptiness is speaking loudly now. They just do not want you to hear how loud it has become. The next card I'm seeing is the Two of Pentacles, and that tells me they are mentally juggling constantly. Reach out, don't reach out, say something. Stay quiet, be brave, protect yourself. This back and forth is exhausting them. And I think what makes it worse is that there is no real peace on either side. Silence hurts, speaking feels risky. So they stay suspended in that middle place, but that middle place is wearing thin. And then the King of Cups appears, which tells me this person's emotions are much deeper than they appear from the outside. They may come off controlled, restrained, or measured. But inside there is tenderness, there is care, there is emotional attachment that has not dissolved. So the deeper message in this part is this: they want to communicate, yes. But what truly terrifies them is that the second they do, all the contained feeling rushes forward. The longing, the relief, the ache, the truth, and spirit keeps whispering one last thing here. This person is not afraid of sending a message. They are afraid of what your response will awaken, because if you are warm, they melt. If you are kind, they soften. If you sound like home even a little, the missing becomes impossible to hide. And that is exactly why the silence continues, not from emptiness, but from the terrible, beautiful fact that your voice could undo their whole defense system in a single reply. They know it, their heart knows it, and every unsent message proves it. Still, even now, their fingers hesitate over your name, because missing you refuses to stay hidden. It feels like someone is standing on the edge of a shoreline at night, shoes wet, heart racing, still telling themselves they have not really stepped in. That is this energy. This person is so close to communicating that the silence has started turning into its own confession. Because at a certain point, when someone wants to speak, wants to reach, wants to hear you, wants to know whether the connection can still breathe, but keeps holding themselves back, the restraint becomes loud, and that is exactly what I am getting here. Loud restraint, loud missing, loud unsaid emotion. The first card I'm seeing here is the Chariot, And wow, this tells me the desire to move towards you is becoming harder and harder for them to manage. There is momentum building inside them, a push, a need, a pressure that wants released through action. I do not feel someone who is settling into silence comfortably. I feel someone who is reaching a limit with it. A person who keeps trying to act in control while the inner current is already moving in your direction. I'm seeing the Ten of Wands. So yes, the missing has become heavy, heavy to carry, heavy to hide, heavy to keep explaining away. I keep hearing something clearly. I'm tired of pretending this doesn't get to me. That line is powerful because it tells me this person is exhausted by their own emotional performance. They may have spent so much time trying to look unaffected, balanced, detached, or fine that now even they are tired of the act. The heart is not cooperating anymore. The body is not cooperating anymore. The emotional truth is pressing too hard against the mask. The energy around you here feels like the Empress, and I love that because it tells me what they miss is not only attention, they miss your energy, your warmth, your softness, the feeling of your presence, the way being connected to you brought something alive in them that they have not been able to recreate elsewhere. So when Spirit says they want to communicate but do not want you to know how badly they miss you, this is exactly what it means. They do not want you to hear that your absence has texture for them, weight for them, tenderness for them. They do not want you to hear how much your energy still lives in their emotional body. Then I'm seeing the Five of Cups in reverse, and this is important because it says part of them wants relief now, wants to come out of regret, wants to stop living in emotional hindsight. They may be realizing that staying silent has not protected them from pain. It has only prolonged it. And that realization is often what finally starts pushing someone toward communication, not because fear disappears, but because the pain of silence grows larger than the pain of vulnerability. And their message keeps coming through strongly. They miss your response. That lands so deeply, not just your face, not just your voice, your response, the way you answered them, the way you understood things, the way your energy met theirs, the way your presence made them feel received. That is such a specific ache, and it tells me this person's longing is relational. They miss the exchange, the back and forth, the warmth of contact, the emotional mirror. So when they think about messaging you, they are not only thinking about sending words. They are thinking about what it would feel like if you answered kindly, if you answered openly, if you answered like the bridge is not broken, and then the moon shows up again, because so much of this is hidden longing, hidden softness, hidden fear of exposure. I feel this person may want to reach out in a very simple way, but even the simplest message feels risky when the heart behind it is this full. That is the problem. They cannot make the message emotionally small enough to feel safe because the missing behind it is too large. The final card I'm seeing here is the Ace of Cups, and that is beautiful because it tells me the urge to communicate is coming from love, tenderness, and emotional truth, not just loneliness. So the message in this part is this: they are moving closer to communication because the silence has become too heavy to carry. The act of being fine is wearing them down, and what they miss is not superficial at all. They miss the feeling of you meeting them, and they want that feeling back more than they want you to know. And Spirit keeps whispering one last thing here. This person is not staying quiet because the connection meant little. They are staying quiet because it meant so much that even one message could expose the whole ache of it. And once that ache is heard, once your name is answered, once the heart realizes the door is not fully closed, they know the missing may come pouring out in ways they cannot control anymore. That is why the silence trembles, because underneath it, communication is already trying to be born. And here at the final edge of this reading, it feels like the silence itself is starting to crack, not loudly, not dramatically, but in that unmistakable way where you can tell something can no longer hold the same pressure without giving way. That is what this person is living in now. They want to communicate, they miss you, they replay you. They carry unsaid things like folded letters in the chest, and at this point, the effort it takes to keep all of that hidden is becoming heavier than the truth itself. The first card I'm seeing here is Judgment, and wow, this is the wake-up call, the reckoning. The moment where a person can no longer comfortably live beneath their own emotional truth. So what I'm getting is that this person is reaching an inner point of no return. They may still be quiet for a little while longer. Yes. But inwardly, something has already shifted. They know now that this silence is not strength. It is delay, and delay is no longer giving them peace. I keep hearing something very clearly. I can't keep acting like this doesn't matter. That line is the whole energy because it tells me their heart is done being minimized, done being talked over by pride, done being managed by fear, done pretending missing you is something small and temporary. And right beside that, I'm seeing the Six of Cups. So yes, they miss you deeply. Sweetly, emotionally, not just in flashes, but in that repeating familiar way where a person's energy becomes part of your private inner world. They miss the feel of you, the way conversations with you landed, the emotional tone of being connected to you, the softness, the warmth, the little things that probably seemed ordinary at the time, but now feel irreplaceable. The energy around you here feels like the star. And I love that because it tells me the reason this person wants to communicate is not only because they are hurting, it is because some part of them still sees hope in your direction. They still associate you with healing, relief, emotional honesty, and something that could make them feel whole again. Even if they are afraid to admit how much they want that, they want it. Then I'm seeing the Knight of Cups, and that tells me the communication that wants to come through is tender, genuine, heart-led. This person does not only want to break silence for the sake of hearing themselves speak. They want to reach you. They want to feel the bridge again. They want to open a softer emotional current between you and see whether it is still alive. And their message keeps coming through very strongly. They are scared you'll hear the love in it. That lands deeply. Because I think this is the final truth underneath everything. Yes, they miss you. Yes, they want to talk. Yes, pride has been in the way. But deeper than all of that, they are afraid the moment they communicate, you will hear exactly how much heart is still there, how much tenderness is still there, how much longing is still there, how much longing is still there, how much you still matter. And once that is heard, they cannot take it back. Then the Eight of Wands appears, and wow, this says communication may happen more suddenly than expected once the dam breaks. I would not be surprised if they hold, and then all at once there is a message, a reach out, a truth, an opening, because that is what happens when a person has been emotionally containing too much for too long. At some point, the heart chooses motion. The final card I'm seeing here is the Ace of Cups, and that is such a beautiful ending because it confirms that what wants to communicate is not empty nostalgia. It is love, soft love, quiet love, unfinished love. The kind that still breathes under silence and still asks for a way to move toward connection. So the deepest message in this final part is this. They want to communicate, but they have been terrified that the moment they do, you will hear how badly they miss you and how much they still feel. But now the inner truth has become louder than the performance of being fine. Their silence is weakening, their heart is rising, and what has been hidden is getting closer and closer to language. And Spirit keeps whispering one last thing here. This person is not trying to decide whether they miss you. They already know that. They are trying to decide whether they are ready to let you know just how impossible it has been to stop. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Take care, because when your name enters their mind now, it does not come alone. It brings memory. It brings ache. It brings the place in the heart where absence has been speaking loudest. And even if they try to sound casual when they reach out, even if they use words, even if they act like it is no big deal, your intuition is going to feel it. You are going to hear the missing between the lines. You are going to feel the softness under the restraint. But in that unmistakable way where you can tell something can no longer hold the same pressure without giving way, that is what this person is living in now. They want to communicate. They miss you. They replay you. They carry unsaid things like folded letters in the chest, and at this point, the effort it takes to keep all of that hidden is becoming heavier than the truth itself. The first card I'm seeing here is Judgment, and wow, this is the wake-up call, the reckoning. The moment where a person can no longer comfortably live beneath their own emotional truth. So what I'm getting is that this person is reaching an inner point of no return. They may still be quiet for a little while longer. Yes. But inwardly, something has already shifted. They know now that this silence is not strength, it is delay, and delay is no longer giving them peace. I keep hearing something very clearly. I can't keep acting like this doesn't matter. That line is the whole energy because it tells me their heart is done being minimized, done being talked over by pride, done being managed by fear, done pretending missing you is something small and temporary. And right beside that, I'm seeing the Six of Cups. So yes, they miss you deeply. Sweetly, emotionally, not just in flashes, but in that repeating familiar way where a person's energy becomes part of your private inner world. They miss the feel of you, the way conversations with you landed, the emotional tone of being connected to you, the softness, the warmth, the little things that probably seemed ordinary at the time, but now feel irreplaceable. The energy around you here feels like the star. And I love that because it tells me the reason this person wants to communicate is not only because they are hurting, it is because some part of them still sees hope in your direction. They still associate you with healing, relief, emotional honesty, and something that could make them feel whole again. Even if they are afraid to admit how much they want that, they want it. Then I'm seeing the Knight of Cups, and that tells me the communication that wants to come through is tender, genuine, heart-led. This person does not only want to break silence for the sake of hearing themselves speak. They want to reach you. They want to feel the bridge again. They want to open a softer emotional current between you and see whether it is still alive. Another message keeps coming through very strongly. They are scared you'll hear the love in it. That lands deeply. Because I think this is the final truth underneath everything. Yes, they miss you. Yes, they want to talk. Yes, pride has been in the way. But deeper than all of that, they are afraid the moment they communicate, you will hear exactly how much heart is still there, how much tenderness is still there, how much longing is still there, how much longing is still there, how much you still matter. And once that is heard, they cannot take it back. Then the Eight of Wands appears, and wow, this says communication may happen more suddenly than expected once the dam breaks. I would not be surprised if they hold, and then all at once there is a message, a reach out,